he's not gonna be?
Hello, Bryce.
No, Ben's not gonna be.
Okay, well, there you go.
Horrible.
It's nice to meet you. I'm Commissioner Waddell.
Oh, Waddell.
Yep, Commissioner Norwood's down there. No worries. I totally understand.
It's nice to meet you.
Ward 4. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't find it. Where's that stuff on the TV station? That's the money we just spent.
Let's see, it's department.
Just the first item?
Nope. It's the fourth item if we count the discuss any item of concern.
David Mason.
Hi, George. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
I said something about TV and that's mine. I can't find it.
Oh, maybe it's, what else would be this
Call the meeting to order. Okay, item number 1, roll call, where all commissioners are here, with the exception of Commissioner Ezell, and he will not be able to be with us this evening.
Okay,
Item number 2, at the commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular session agenda of December 3rd, 2019.
so on the claim list, and of course now I can't find it, but it has to do with the television station. Scott, are you familiar with these lists, the claims list, and what area that would be in? We were paying for a service of some sort. So it starts up here. And it was just like 4 items or so.
It's Department 150.
There it is, annual governmental access website maintenance service for $11,000. And is that in your area or no?
Derek, Granicus, is that for a new website that is coming out?
That's for the maintenance.
Maintenance.
They host it on a server and maintain it.
So it has to do with our City of Enid website, maintenance for that.
It's an annual fee. It's not, I don't think it's uncommon. Any software package we have around here, we typically have annual maintenance fees, which includes customer support and upgrades and I'm thinking Derek probably uses it maybe more than anybody, but anybody can use it, right? And it's also the fee for, I guess, for access. So I don't know if that answers your question fully, but.
Okay. All right. Are we going to be talking about Pegasus tonight? I mean, Enid Television Network?
Yes.
And so we'll wait until that time to
We can.
ask questions?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Okay.
I had one. There was there's a charge on here, I can't find it right now, but to Luckenbill for $400 and some odd thousand. Was that already in the budget? Is that something that we budgeted for?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see, it's probably.
It's a sanitary point repair program that we do annually, and there's about $750,000 budgeted for that, and they're awarding $400,000 at this point.
Okay, okay. That's not an additional expense that's come along, is what I'm understanding. Okay, all right, that's all I wanted to know.
That's not a one repair.
No.
No, it's numerous repairs and,
repairs plus.
yeah, Morali, can you speak to it for us?
35 repairs.
35.
35, okay. Thank you.
Just question off of Commissioner Mason's. I noticed the difference in the price between them and CP Integrated, and I was just curious. I believe CP Integrated came in at a little bit over $1 million, and I wonder why it's such a difference in the pricing. I know they're out of Oklahoma City. Right. They have more overhead, but almost $800,000 difference. I was just curious as to why.
If you see the contract time, they wanted to do it in 180 days compared to the regular, like it takes a year to do it. So they want to come here and get it done and go. So that's the main reason probably they have more number.
So a specification was a shorter time frame, or?
Yeah, like we ask contractor to bid their contract time, so we get a better dollar numbers.
Right.
So, yeah.
So with Luckinville being here locally, that makes a
Yeah.
difference. Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. Any other items? Okay. Let's see. Okay, next is update on the 2020 United States Census. Lisa, you're gonna speak to us?
Okay, good evening, everyone. 2020 census is upon us, and Census Day is April 1st. But the planning for this and preparation has been going on for a couple of years, probably. I know the city has been involved up to this point. A lot of preparation in advance includes identifying new addresses that have been put into service since the last census. And your city and county and state have been surveying the state to identify those new addresses and getting those in place so that they can receive a census postcard and be counted in this year's census. So that has been happening up prior to now. Right now, we are really moving into an awareness phase of the census between now and the end of the year. I'm serving on a statewide, what they call complete count committee, which is really an initiative to ensure that everybody gets counted. And then locally, out of our office, Trent Meshach is managing the Garfield County Complete Count Committee. We've had one initial meeting and have another meeting coming up next week. I'll have information on that at the end of the slideshow here. And so we are really at this point gathering members to be a part of this committee who will help us educate everyone across the community about the census and why it's important to be counted. And then the committee will begin their work January through March of next year. Like I said, April 1st is the date to be counted. So whether you respond to the census prior to April 1st or after April 1st, your response is dependent upon where you exist on April 1st. So if you are living in Enid, Oklahoma on April 1st and you move April 2nd, you get counted in Enid for the census. And so up till April 1st through March, postcards will be delivered to all of the residents. And this year will be the first time that the census will be available online. And so that postcard you receive will give you a code that will allow you to go online and respond that way. You can also respond via phone. You can respond on paper the traditional way as well. After April 1st, there will be reminders sent out, I think through the month of April for people that haven't responded. And then beginning in May is when they will begin sending enumerators is what they're called, but people out to your door to identify anybody who maybe hasn't responded yet and get them counted. So the census is something that exists in our Constitution. It was written in as something that is required to be done every 10 years. And even though we have more efficient ways nowadays to count or estimate our population, it is dictated by our Constitution that there be a physical count done of our population every 10 years. So that's why it is done the way it is. And federal funding is based off of that count. There's $675 billion in federal funding that's allocated as a result of the census. That count influences things such as redistricting in the state of Oklahoma, which will be happening for our representatives and senators statewide, as well as federal congressional seats are determined based off the census count. And these numbers that we determine as a result of our census are the basis for all demographic information that everybody will use for the next 10 years. So all of the numbers that I use or that business and industry and retailers and nonprofits and anybody else trying to figure out information about our community for the next 10 years will be based off that count on April 1st of 2020. So we want to make that as accurate as possible. Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So am I to understand the state of Oklahoma has not put any money towards helping with this count? Do they need to? Or I understand California has put aside a bunch of money to help make sure that they count everyone. Does the city of Enid have to put any money towards this? So can you tell me about that?
There have been some states that have appropriated money through the legislature to fund marketing efforts for the census. The state of Oklahoma has not done that. However, the Department of Commerce is allocating funds. I think they've appropriated or spent up to this point about $400,000 towards that. Our office will be using some of our funding to print marketing materials and that kind of thing. Really, in 2010, there is a big difference. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, I was doing this in 2010 as well. And in 2010, the federal government spent a lot of money on swag and posters and promotional material and on and on and on, and they aren't doing that this year. They have a tremendous library at census.gov of posters, materials, PSA announcements, videos, social media posts, all sorts of things already pre-packaged that we can download and use, and we are and will be doing that. But as far as there is some money needed to print those materials and that kind of thing. So haven't planned on requesting any funding from the city at this point. ERDA will be spending some of our funds for that, though.
Okay.
So, it is completely confidential, and I know we always say this and we always hear that it's confidential, but there is a little story I like to tell you guys about that really emphasizes how confidential this is. So there's one person in the state of Oklahoma who has direct access to the addresses that are a part of the census, and he's located at the Department of Commerce, and he went through specific federal background, screening and training to be allowed this access. But he is on a specific computer that is in a room all by itself, that is not connected to the internet, and he is the only one allowed that access, and that is just to do everything possible to ensure the confidentiality of that data. And I thought that was really interesting. It just impresses upon how seriously they take the confidentiality of any of the census data. It's not shared with any of the other agencies or departments. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to participate in the census. I know that was a concern at one point, that there would be a citizenship question on the census. And there is not, because non-citizens take advantage and benefit from the federal funding that's provided as a result of census count. And so we want to make sure that everybody gets counted. And there are 10 questions on the census. It's considered a short form. So a little more dollars and cents on what it means to us. In Oklahoma, it's estimated that the census equates to about $1,675 per person per year who is counted. We should exceed 50,000 in population with this year's count. If we did, that equates to $83,750,000 of estimated federal funding to Enid over that 10-year period. You can see top 10 programs there that do rely on census data. Those are federal budget numbers there. But Medicaid, SNAP, Medicare Part B, highway planning, Pell Grants, the school lunch program, TANF, those types of programs are all allocated based off census counts. So the main objective of the Complete Count Committee will be to reach those hard-to-count populations. Children have really been identified as one of those most undercounted in the population, children 0 to 5 years old. Households just sometimes don't think about that when they're filling out their census form, that they should count their infants and young children. And so we're trying to really get the word out about that. So if you have a baby on April 1st, they count. Obviously, people who move frequently are racial and ethnic minorities, non-English speakers, people who are homeless or undocumented immigrants. et cetera, et cetera. You can see kind of the list there. So our complete count committee is really focused on identifying leadership and respected individuals within each one of those populations that can help reach them and educate them about the benefits of the census. We're doing everything we can and trying to come up with ways to share information about the census in low cost, high impact efforts there. And community events, I think, is a neat idea. Terry Moat with the Micronesian population is on our committee, and he is wanting to organize an event with some of his leadership and a gathering that they have that would provide information about the census. And so we'll be doing those types of things as well as just your general marketing initiatives. All ideas are welcome, so if you have suggestions, please let us know. They're also hiring thousands of temporary workers. These would be the door-to-door enumerators as well as other behind-the-scenes people who help support the efforts of the census. 2020census.gov is where you can apply for those jobs. It does take a number of months to get screened and through the application process. So for anybody who's interested, I would suggest you go ahead and start that now. I don't think the work, though, begins until April and probably runs through June or July. Here are some of the members that have joined our complete count committee at this point. This is not an exhaustive list. We are always adding to that, to anybody else who might want to help or anybody else we think of that might be able to help. And this is our next meeting date is the 18th at 10 o'clock at Autry Technology Center in room 301. Does anyone have any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
And it might have been on the slides, but I might have missed it. In terms of like federal employees, the military members on base, are they counted in the census as well?
Yes, they are.
Are we working with Vance in order to be able to make sure that they have content in order to be able to distribute to their folks?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, so places like dormitories, Air Force bases, senior citizen nursing homes, those types of facilities are all involved and
So
being
they even
counted
send
too.
the post office boxes and stuff like that. A lot of the enlisted, if they live in a dorm, probably have a post office box.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
where the postcard will go. Okay.
I have one question. What about the college students
Mm-hmm.
from out of town?
College students are counted where they live on April 1st. So if they are in Stillwater on OSU's campus on April 1st and that's where they live, that's where they're counted. Same for NOC's dorms here in Enid. If they're in those dormitories, they'd be counted here April 1st. Yeah.
Even if we still claim them on our income tax.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing to do with
If
that.
you have an uncle living with you on your couch on April 1st, he counts in Enid on April 1st. So, yeah, even if it's temporary.
Is there anything, Lisa, that we lose by not getting to 20 or to 50,000 people? I mean, obviously dollars, but is that a magic number for us, or?
Well, it is a magic number. Most of your funding at the federal level, and I'm trying to think if it affects state level funding, probably. 50,000 is your breaking point between being a micropolitan and a metropolitan community.
Okay.
And rural is also defined as less than 50,000, and non-rural urban is over 50,000. And so while we would lose access to some grant and funding opportunities because we, exceed 50,000, we'd also take advantage of new opportunities that we haven't had access to before. So we just kind of jump into a new pool. In the retail, market, it benefits us to be greater than 50,000 because retailers, are obviously more focused on larger populations. So
it's kind of a big deal. I mean, all my time in Enid, we've always wanted to be 50,000 people.
yeah.
And we've just never quite gotten there. So it seems like it's really important for us to get everybody counted.
Mm-hmm. It is. And in 2010, we were 49,371. So we were just under in
So you
2010.
think we can make it easily?
We can. And in fact, through estimates, federally, we are already recognized higher than 50,000. We are already considered a metropolitan community. That happened in October 1st of 2017. So now we just need to prove it through a physical count. That's what I'm hoping we see, so.
Lisa, that $83 million, what are those funds used for?
That list of,
Can you go to that slide,
Yeah.
please?
right there. Those are the top 10 ways that funding is allocated.
So this benefits everybody in the community by making sure that everybody's counted, that it benefits all. So it's just not some pot of money that disappears and nobody ever gets to see it. It goes to help every aspect of our community.
It does, and we, as a tax-paying body of citizens, are going to fund the services for these citizens regardless of whether or not we are reimbursed by the federal government most of the time. And so we're paying for it one way or another, and so this just allows that allocation from the feds, according to our count through the census, so.
On the second, Section 8 housing choice vouchers, isn't there, the Section 8 housing, isn't that in Ponca City right now, or? Because I know
I
of
don't know.
someone that applied for it, and that individual had to go to Ponca City.
Okay.
Because there was no way of receiving those funds here in Enid.
Not familiar. Could be.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm not gonna fake my way through that one. I have no idea, so.
Thank you.
We can find out though, I'm sure, but, yeah.
Honesty is a virtue.
Any other questions?
Yeah, on the
Yes.
December 18th meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna send some military folks
Whoops.
over to
Oh, yeah, I don't know what I
represent
did.
the
Okay.
advanced community, just for the fact that, sometimes, especially our young folks, they don't understand the importance behind it. Who is the POC, like, no direct, in case our folks, miss or information flow and everything else, who would they go be a direct to?
They can contact Trent Mishak, M-I-S-A-K. And that's Trent at growenid.com. I think we're working with Terry Schaefer is probably
Okay,
our
good.
contact out there right now, so.
Okay, good.
And she's at these meetings a lot of times, so.
We're gonna bring a couple others.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
More
some
the
of our
merrier.
young folks in the dorms, they seem to listen to their peers more than they would listen to us old folks, so
Okay.
we'll make sure that we get them
That's a
there.
great idea.
When did that start happening?
I know, right?
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah, please, you guys have a reach in the community and know who needs to be a part of this and who can help us out, so please let us know who we can include, so. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. All right. Item number 4, update on the Enid Television Network.
All right. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this will be a brief overview of what is going on with Enid Television Network, what does our future look like, and what is this transition going to be like. So we'll start off. The current name of the department is PR/ETN/marketing. So we're going to change the name to communications. So that's going to be our new name. We've got a new department logo down the bottom right, Enid Communications. That looks really nice. And all of our social media web pages, we've changed the URLs on them already to reflect our new name, Enid Communications, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Some of the other changes you'll see, what was the ETN building we've now labeled the Enid Media Center. And so we're going to be doing our production of meetings down there at the new media center. So that means that in the future, in a few months from now, instead of seeing Dane and AJ sitting at the back of the council meeting room recording and doing all of the production of the meetings, they'll be doing that from down the street at the media center. We've reviewed all of the job descriptions for each employee within the department and made the appropriate changes to reflect the mission of the department. and we've made those changes, and we're up and going with that. The TV and radio media, since we have not replaced Steve Kime, I am the primary point person for TV and radio, and then Gerald is also going to be helping with that. So Gerald and I are going to be taking on TV and radio media, and then we're going to be moving Derek and a new assistant down to the media center so that we can have all of our department in one place, and that will also help free up some space for engineering, some extra office space that's needed here at the building.
Have you already hired for that assistant position?
It is posted right now.
It's a part-time position.
Yeah. Yep.
To give clarity on that.
So here's a little timeline of what's going on with our programming. We've had a slide out for months kind of explaining what's going on with the process, how people can view their church services on the social media platforms, and explaining kind of our timeline. We've had that up for months already. What we've got now is we've pretty well ended all of our TV programming as of now. We've got a few instructional slides up now that are the same slides we've had up for months, where people can see where to go visit their church services and how they can view these commission meetings, where they get pointed to for that. And starting tomorrow, we're hopefully going to go to one slide, which I'll show you what it looks like, and we're working with Suddenlink to put that slide up on their end. What the point is we want to keep channels 11 and 12 available to us, but we don't want to have to dedicate our equipment just to having a slide up there that says, here's what's going on. So we're working with them to do that. That way we can transition some of our equipment out of the racks and begin some new technology that we got in this week. Here's what the slide looks like. It's just how to find us. We're going to be streaming live to 3 platforms: YouTube, Facebook, and the City of Enid website. So these are the 3 ways people are going to be able to watch council meetings, MAPC meetings, things like that. Right now, this is our current website right here, and this is our meetings page, and it kind of shows all of the meetings that are going on, all of the dates that are going on. You can click on the agendas to see what that looks like. Our new website that should be released in a few months, this is what it's going to look like, the meeting page. It'll have a calendar of events over here. It'll have what's going on today. It'll have a list of the next 3 or 4 or 5 upcoming meetings. And once you click on that, then it will begin to play your video. And this is what it will look like. It will show all of the agenda on one side. It'll display the video of the meeting on the right. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but if there's a vote on something, this area on the bottom may pop up some voting results and things like that happen live during the meeting. So it should be a really good way for citizens to look at this and see what's going on with the agenda at the same time. We've got iCompass coming. It may be a month or 2 out. I'm not exactly sure on the date. Alyssa can probably tell me more about the date of when that's going to happen, but iCompass is coming, and this is going to be something that you all will find where it will be easier to see what's going on. It will be easier to post agenda items, and it will be more transparent to the community. The community will be able to see what's going on. It's a lot more user-friendly than any program that we've had. It will allow you guys to vote electronically on your iPads, and it will allow Alyssa to take minutes of the meeting, and things will happen automatically in electronic format that will just make the meetings flow easier. But this is the component on the bottom. This is what is going to make viewing the meetings, where if you want to go back, if you're not watching it live and you only want to watch administration 8.2, you can click on that chapter and watch just that portion of it without having to try to fast forward through the meeting and find what you're looking for. This should kind of develop chapters for us where we can just click on what we want to see and watch it.
So how secure is all that?
I don't have the answer to that. I assume.
Well, I don't want the Russians hacking in and changing Rob's vote.
I don't think either. I don't think they can change anything.
We can get you the answer to that. I assume that we've done our due diligence, and these are all the PDI compliant type resources. But we can find out for sure
So my question is, it says more accessible for citizens now. Is that citizens that are over 65 in that age group? I mean, do they use these formats? I mean, we're taking away a known quantity, which we've been forewarned of this for quite some time, but we never really studied that. And it was, a joke was made in this room about there's 12 people watching it, you know.
Yeah.
There was no way to determine whether there were 12 people watching it or not. I maintain there's more people than that watching that. And I'm just saying that maybe need to look in the future at. That's something we can discuss with Suddenlink, if you know where I'm going with it.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, let me jump in and say that our intent is not to do away with the channels. Our intent is not to program for the channels anymore right now, because it's taking what I consider a disproportionate effort to create content and program it constantly. If we ever figure out an easier way to do it that streams something from our Facebook page or YouTube or something, we want that. I agree with you. You're right. We want to maintain that. I also know we talked about this, at least some with the commission, but quite a bit with the advisory committee. And so a lot of the input we got, the survey, we did a survey, so the comments about 12, actually I think it was 7. Doesn't mean that there's not more people that watching it that, but there's only 7 people that responded to the survey, and we tried to entice people to do it by offering 1 or 2 gift cards of like $100. But I think the determination was made, even if it's 100 people, we reach thousands daily with a Facebook post.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it. We reach, I mean, with our internet site, Derek puts out statistics. We used to put them on the weekly report. Maybe we still do. I don't know. I think we do once a month or something. But some of you that are on the committee can probably speak to it better than I
tell
can.
you, we would be much more effective if we went door to door and told everybody what was going on to the city. But we know the expense that it would cost in order to be able to do that would be absorbent. This is the exact same thing. We've made a determination, or we've looked at what it would cost and what it's costing as it is right now. The investment just to maintain our current infrastructure in order to be able to broadcast it is in the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to cost to be able to maintain it as it is. We know that society and we know that culture is moving away from the cable-based platform in order to be able to push out information. We know social media is one of the biggest ways in order for message to get out. Our president right now has gotten away from press briefings on television in order to be able to push his own message out on Twitter. And so because he understands he can effectively put out a message right now, right here in this moment, and people not only can see an active message, but they can go back and refer to that message much more simply. Whereas if you on cable television, you have to be there at the time in which it is broadcasting in order to be able to, we're moving to a more efficient way in order to be able to put our message out in an effective way that's more cost efficient. And so if we could do it in a cable way that didn't cost us the amount that it is at this particular point, maybe. But we'd still even have to put the man hours into it in order to be able to produce what it is we're talking about and get it in. It just, the way the board and we sat and we talked about, we belabored this for over a year in order to be able to talk about what it was going to take in order to be able to get this done, what we could do in order to be able to do it. And the consensus, overwhelmingly, from if I remember correctly, is that what we were doing with cable TV just wasn't worth the time and the effort that we were putting into it. And we came with here's the thing, and we came with the same reservation that you did, or is that really the case? And so what we did was it said, okay, how can we best measure who's watching this? We literally tried to pay people to respond whether or not they were actually watching the content out. In a platform that 7 people responded.
Did you ever think it was maybe the content that they didn't like? I mean, you can't force people to watch stuff. Hollywood proves that all the time.
I agree.
So I'm saying that it was flawed in the first place, and that the old format, when it was Pegasus, didn't cost near as much as it all of a sudden, when the previous administration canceled it out and tried to create something new, it created a monster that was way more expensive.
What content would you want produced on that
Really, the only thing that makes any sense to me is to make sure that people can watch these meetings, these meetings here, the public meetings, whether it's MAPS, whether it's the school board meetings,
Sure.
just those kind of things. I'm not talking about that we need a famous interviewer.
No,
I'm not,
I get it, but
I don't have to do that.
We're talking about for monthly content, we're talking about probably to the tune of 12 hours worth of content that we're going to maintain an entire network in order to be able to produce, to put out 12 hours worth of content per month. And so 144 hours worth of content annually that we're talking about with the meetings. We've got maybe 3 to 4 hours that are put in here, an hour for the meetings that we actually do record that we're gonna maintain in order to be able to do that and put it on cable. When we can do it right now on social media for next to nothing. So I think what we can do is we can drag our community into the 21st century and say, hey, let's look.
Well, now,
and it's going to be cheaper to do so.
I don't think drag them into the.
Yeah.
That's the right. I think the right way to say it is educate them into the future. I think maybe we have an obligation to get some of the crowd that doesn't use these as much as they use the TV set, and maybe
You can put this content on your television
already.
already.
Put together a class designed for populations that are used to TVs to get them more accustomed to being able to look at things and find.
I understand, and I think that's the best idea of this whole thing is to help bring in the people who are gonna, because we're gonna find out pretty quick if people complain or not. It's gonna come in the form of letters to the editor or calls here.
That's
or
inevitable.
whatever. And and we'll get to see some kind of impact from that. So I'm just saying that it's, I wanted to visit a little stronger about it because that we've not talked about it a whole lot. We've all just agreed that the old system was it was time to get something else.
I've been sitting on the board for over 2 years.
And thank you.
And we sat on that board and we discussed it for about 18 months of the last 2 years of that, and we seriously took a run at it for at least the last year. And then we brought it to the commission and we discussed it with the commission in terms of whether or not this was a good direction to go in. And in terms of reservation, there wasn't a whole lot of reservation at that point. I'm not opposed of going back to the cable cable TV platform, unless it costs more than what's practical. And if we can't find a way to even measure whether or not individuals are even watching it, how can we even justify going back to that if we can't even quantify how many people we're actually servicing? When we can look easily at social media and know right out the gate immediately how many people we're contacting. So if we can quantify it and we can justify it based on how many people we're going to contact and how much it's going to cost us, and we can make a measurement and say, yeah, it's worth it in order to be able to do that, I'm all for it. But we've tried for the last 2 years, and the number we keep coming to is that we've got that Suddenlink has, well, I can't remember if it's like 20,000 subscribers, 14,000 subscribers, but we can't tell if any of those people actually watch that channel. And so if we can't figure out a way to quantify it, I can't justify spending the money in order to be able to keep it.
But I do like the idea of coming up with a way of providing some training. I don't know about anybody else, but I have actually been to the class at Autry Tech that tells you how to use an iPhone. I couldn't find a 14-year-old, so I signed up for the course, and we need something like that.
How would we do that?
I don't know. I'm just saying that's one way. I think that's a way to get to the population that you're talking about.
I think there's a lot of people that just scan through the channels and they see it, whether it's in a rerun or they pay attention on a night like tonight when they know it's going to be on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they watch it for any amount of time.
Yeah.
It's not always interesting, it's not always entertaining, but it is informative to certain people at certain times.
I agree. And I think if we put out a platform and we say the platform where you can find this media, people are going to find it if they actually have an interest in being able to go see it. But I'm more interested in we're talking about providing classes and providing, educating the public. I'm just curious as to what platform or what medium we would use in order to be able to provide training to the public, in order to be able to train them how to go to YouTube.
Mm-hmm. We could probably do some kind of put out, anybody that wants to know where to go now to get live meetings, come to Convention Hall at such and such day and we'll show you, or come to City Hall. Honestly, I'll be interested to see how many people show up.
Me too.
Me too. I agree.
I want to make
see
sure we're not saying, we are still gonna, this meeting's shown live right now somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still on Suddenlink, right? But next month it's gonna be on wherever, but go back to the slide where you tell us how we were gonna get it. I want to make sure everybody knows this meeting, which you said was very important to people, and I agree with you, and I know we want to do more of this with other meetings, and these are the ways we're going to be doing that.
Can you put that in a format and send it to us so we can look at it at our own leisure?
Sure.
Because you've gone through it quite a bit, and you've worked very hard on that, Scott, and it looks great. But I'd really like to study it.
You have the slides.
Oh, they're in there?
Yeah.
There's so many things sent to us.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, page 274.
It's in, yeah,
So you
yeah,
can just
exactly.
click on that, but one of those is, a meeting's going on, so you just click on the website, and
So-
you can get it.
Today, it is on enidtv.org.
Okay.
If you click on that, if you go to our website and you click the right things, it will take you to enidtv.org. You can watch the meeting live right now.
Quick tutorial,
Okay.
if they want to see it.
So
Well, I don't want to beat a dead
And then
horse.
what does
I
it,
mean,
how
you
does
know.
it change in 2 months?
in a few months, we will be on Facebook and YouTube. We're not on Facebook and YouTube right now. We might be there actually next council meeting. We'll see. We're trying very hard to get onto the platforms.
So after that, you won't be able to go to our website and click someplace and watch?
We
Or you
will be
can?
able to use the website, but we are
Okay.
waiting on iCompass to come
Okay.
in. So it's a complicated answer, but we will have a way for people to
Soon.
view the meetings.
Okay.
All right, well, we got bigger fish to fry, don't we?
We always
Yeah,
have, we
yeah.
always have big
There's a big
fish
fish
is a
in
big
there.
one too.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be more on this because obviously we're going to talk to you more about iCompass as it gets closer to rollout and the new website. We will not lose the capability to stream and do this stuff live.
Okay, so there it is.
Right there you go.
Sorry about the fish.
Say hello, everybody. Hi.
There's a time lapse on
Okay.
always.
3 clicks, well, 4 clicks, I think, to get
Okay.
to it off of our webpage.
We'll go
Great.
directly to etv.org.
So a little bit
current-
about the,
Current commission meetings right here. You click on that. And you go commit city commission meeting live, click on that. It's gonna redirect you.
Okay.
2 clicks.
There it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
a little bit about we'll get back to the slideshow, but a little bit about how it's more transparent to the citizens. Instead of waiting on the programming, they can go back and look at 4 city council meetings ago and watch whatever it is that they want to watch. They can go look at an MAPC meeting and they can watch it now. So once people are on the websites, they have accessibility to any meeting they want to go watch, and they can click on it and watch it right away. So
Well, I think that's a great thing. I'm not questioning that.
the other, can you move back to my slideshow, Dana, please? The other thing that I just want to put out there too is we have slowed down the programming and had slides up explaining that we're ending ETN, and I don't know about your phones being ringing off the hook with people. Mine hasn't really rang. I'm not, the doors aren't being beat down by people saying you're cutting off my TV program. I don't know if you all commissioners have experienced that, but I have not. So, okay.
Many months ago, you let the churches know and the big users that would come in and put programming on. I think you got a little feedback at that time.
I did
So
get
they're
a
well
little
aware
bit
of
of
what we're
feedback
doing.
from a few churches, but most of them, a lot of their viewers already watch it. They already provide a website format anyway, the churches, and a lot of their people in their congregation watch it on the internet anyway. But I did call those people several months ago and get that going. So just a couple more slides left. In the future, here's what we are doing. We're going to do more public service announcements with police and fire safety. We're going to do more educational videos that have to do with ordinance, procedures, accomplishments that the city's done. More informational videos that are mini updates, maybe information on boards and commissions and clubs. More partnerships, that could be with Visit Enid, Main Street Enid. We're probably going to make a few videos for the census and put those out at a timely time to try to get people to get information about that. And more promotionals. That might be things like events going on in the park, different things like that, major attractions coming to Enid. And with our new equipment that we've purchased, we have a little bit more capacity. And if there are other public meetings that we want to record and put online and stream, we have the capacity to do that if that's the desire going forward. I have an example of a PSA. If you guys want to watch it, it's a couple minutes. Do we have time for that?
It's up to you.
Bryce, how long is your?
Just, a short presentation and answer questions.
Okay, well, if it's just a couple minutes, go ahead.
For homes warm. Portable space heaters are a good option in some cases for supplementing the heat in your home as temperatures get colder. But
We got to kill the other, the video, our feed.
Resulting in over 600 deaths. It's important to remember that space heaters require space. You need to make sure that you have at least 3 feet of space around the heater. Keep it away from anything that would burn, furnishings, clothing, newspapers, other things. Housekeeping is very important when using portable space heaters.
That's what I do.
Portable space heaters should be plugged directly into a wall outlet. Never use an extension cord or power strip with a portable space heater. They should never be used as the sole source of heat because they can overload electric circuits. Make sure that your regular heating appliance is working properly, and then use space heaters only where needed to supplement that heat. Selection of space heaters is also important.
So today we're looking at several types of space heaters. This one is oil-filled radiant space heater. This one here uses a ceramic element with a fan. This one uses a metal coil with a fan. And this is a radiant heater with a fan.
Check to make sure that it has a UL label or an ETL label on the device to show that it's been tested and certified for safe consumer use. Look for safety features on your space heater, such as tip-over switches and overheat limit switches. Thanks for watching, and contact the Enid Fire Department if you have questions about home fire safety.
I think we need to make sure that our schools know that those are available, that those teachers, especially those elementary ed teachers, could download those and show those in school.
Well, I thought it was important just to show you one of these PSAs to show off the quality work that this department really can put out. And that's the future of where this department's going, and more videos like that we can put out and show. So really, that's all I've got for you, unless there are any questions.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Okay. Item number 5, discuss Suddenlink franchise process. Mr. Kennedy, is that you?
Yes, thank you. This was so exciting. When you think that, in Los Angeles in 1982, when Ronald Reagan was president, they had a presentation on public access. And I brought that idea back to Enid, and Enid embraced it and created Pegasus and really created this whole concept of communicating, the local government communicating with the public. And where you have taken this now, using all the technologies and getting out there, even that PSA, that was fantastic. You're just taking that message out further. And this is actually, some of that was the dream that I had that Pegasus would become, but everything just changed so fast, and we were watching cable TV, and now we're watching cable TV on internet, and we're streaming. We're streaming programs, and we're binge watching those programs, and everything has changed. So,
Bryce, do you mind, because you are on TV?
Yeah.
Would you mind going up there, because
Absolutely.
we'll get, everybody can hear you better.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, this is all very, very exciting, and I commend you for taking this direction. This is a great direction. I want to appreciate and I want to thank Carol, the city manager, and the city council for allowing me to participate in this. I've actually negotiated all of your cable franchises since 1983-4. So if you like it or if you don't like it, you can either blame me or think that it's great. But there has been an issue as of late, And we had an informal meeting with Suddenlink, and we discussed what that issue was, and that was that Altice bought Suddenlink, and they bought Cablevision, and they paid $9 billion for that. And then the last few months, they tried to transition some of their software programming into, this is the story, okay? Transitioning their software programming in to actually make everything better. And during this period of time, it made it so much worse. My wife was on the phone for 2 hours, trying to get a response. And so we are right now, after they implemented that and it didn't flow very well, we're right now talking about renegotiating the cable contract. So it's not real good for them. They picked a bad time to do that, and I think they're going to speak to that today. I don't need to tell you, from what you're doing, things have changed, and they've changed dramatically. But in this negotiation, all we can really talk about is cable TV. We can talk about the system. We are not authorized to negotiate with Suddenlink on any other subject. We do not get franchise fees from internet. We cannot talk about internet. We can talk about the system. And so that's important, the system of delivery. And that is one of the items. And I think that, I gave you a memo which really details, 50, 60 years of cable TV in Enid, and who it was and who negotiated it, and what it provided, the implementation of Pegasus, how that changed to Enid TV, and all of those facts. And we have a good cable television agreement. I mean, it's a solid agreement. The last time we did it, we just extended it for a period of time. They paid us some dollars, but there are requirements under that agreement and also under FCC that they have to comply with. And I think that some of what, is concerning and may be concerning to the public is those customer service standards, and how long it takes to answer the phone, and how long it takes to get a response, and how long it takes to get somebody out to your house, and how long it takes to get that fixed. And those are the things that I believe that we should concentrate on in this particular negotiation. I mean, really, they need to be up to speed with the FCC standards. And if you've looked at my document, those standards appear pretty rigid. Just the ones that are required by the FCC are pretty rigid, and that's what we really need to, that's the expectation that we need to have from them. So why are we even negotiating with them? Because, we don't negotiate with DirecTV or with Dish or anyone else. We negotiate with them because they have our lines in the right-of-way, and that's the reason. We hold the right-of-way in trust for the public. And for them to have those lines in the right-of-way, they have to come to us. Now, a franchise cannot be exclusive. A license cannot be exclusive. Anybody can come in here and ask to offer cable television in the community. But they have to get a license from us. It used to be a franchise. It used to be subject to a vote of the people. And so some of ours were actually voted in by the people, like your OG&E franchises. But that got changed by state law. State law got implemented. They said no more of that. And all of this is covered under federal law. These are all federal rules and requirements that are dictating. There was an act in 1984. There was an act in 1996. And so everything we're doing is really under those acts. In some states, the franchising procedure is mandated by the state. They say, this is what the franchise looks like. This is cities, this is what you can do. That they tried to get that going in Oklahoma. It hasn't. We're enough independent here, and so you could actually frame your own cable television franchise or license with the cable company. And my memo that I pointed out really talked about the issues that we can ask for, the issues that they can ask for, and then the issues that we can really bargain together, that we can seek a common interest in. And so tonight's meeting is really limited, and this is of course up to you, you're the council, but I, in this informal meeting, gave Suddenlink a list of questions and documents that I want them to provide. Because part of doing these hearings is we have to find out how they did under the existing license, right? I mean, I'm sure that everybody wants to know, how did they do? Let's gauge their score. So what we've done is we've asked them for a series of documents and a series of responses, and some of that is how they've met those customer service standards. But they sought, we had that meeting on November 20th. They sought additional time to provide those documents and to provide those responses. And of course that was reasonable because we had the holiday and this hearing, it kind of creeped up on me. I don't know if it creeped up on you, but it was quick right after the holiday. So we're really talking about coming back on January 7th and addressing that. At that point I'll have a PowerPoint and we'll talk about exactly how they met it. This particular meeting, I think, is it's hearing from the public. We're really supposed to talk about what future cable-related needs does the public have? What would they like to see? And then, what do they have to say about cable television? Part of that will be done by showing you the results of a cable survey. Derek put together a great survey. We had a lot of responses to that survey, and we acquired a lot of data from that survey, individual data, who's having problems. And we shared that data with Suddenlink. And Suddenlink has actually taken that data and is reaching out to those customers that are having problems. And in fact, tonight, for the customers that are here and that really do have problems, this line has been hanging, this far, I could reach up and touch the cable line, or it's been laying on the ground, or I get horrible reception. They're going to have folks here outside of City Hall, and the people can come out either before or after the hearing, and they can meet with Suddenlink representatives and get those things answered right now. Because of course, what we'd like to do is get individual problems answered. But for the future, we'd like to get that continued, that kind of effort that we're seeing right now, we need to get that continued. So really, tonight is to hear from the public. I think that we're going to hear the survey. We're also going to hear from Suddenlink. They're going to talk about what their system will look like. When they talked to us, they told us that as compared to other systems, they provide 90% of everything. They're going to present that, and then how they're going to try to reach out with these customer service standards and try to do better. I think they're also going to talk about the acquisition of Altice and the software glitch they had and the problems that they had. At the second meeting, and that would be on January 7th, we're gonna gauge their performance. And in the period between now and April 21st, 2020, we hope to be able to bring an agreement to you that you might want to approve and continue. There's all kinds of issues. There's term. We can't get any more money out of them. It's limited to 5% licensing fee. We've been getting that. We can talk about PEG-related equipment. That doesn't come against, or that's not counted against the franchise fee, but we have to have PEG, and it has to be associated with cable. So, Jerry, it's really the issue that you directed and that you spoke to. That's basically what we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight's to hear from the public. Yes.
Couple questions.
Yes.
If I understood your memo, it's 5% of the gross revenue of the cable company, right? Based on the TV subscription.
Cable only, that's
Cable
correct.
only, I understand that. how do we know? Where's the audit on that we're actually collecting 5% of that?
There are some firms, that's a very good question. There are accounting firms that you can hire, okay, because all of those records have to be disclosed, and they can come in and do a physical audit of that. But that's really the manner. You know,
At our expense, or?
Well, I mean, there's accounting firms that are willing to do that. At least they have been in the past. They're willing to do that. They're betting on the fact that there is a difference, and they'll do it on a commission. Yeah. Now, I would need to contact them, see if they have that or not, or whether there are groups. But just like the guys that go out when you have a hailstorm and they want to come in and take before you do your roof, how much did your insurance company offer you? Let's find out what I can get, but I get a percentage of that. It's kind of that same thing. So some systems do, or some governing bodies do audit that at this very time, at the time that you're talking about a renegotiation.
Yeah. I have concerns with a company that can't answer the phone being able to give us a correct number each year. And then the other thing is, on these requirements, especially the customer service requirements, and they're reviewing this and they're looking at it, and so what if they don't correct it? Well, I mean, is there any monetary restitution for the customer if, I know people have been on the phone for hours on this deal.
Yeah, has it been in the last few months?
Oh,
Yes.
No, this has been over the last multiple years.
Okay.
I know they want to blame this over the last few months, but it's not.
Yours has been the last few months?
Within the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, my wife was on the phone for 2 hours, you know,
Yeah.
so when you guys called, she had something to say about it.
So what happens if they don't? What if they say we will, but we won't?
Well,
But they
I mean,
don't.
there's the ability to non-renewal. There's the ability to terminate the licensing agreement. You guys actually have an option in your agreement if it's effectively terminated. Now, there's a formal process and an informal process. Right now, we're looking at the informal process. It has to be done at the right time. It has to be done by procedure. You have to give the cable company, you got to give them notice, opportunity to be heard. It's a lengthy proceeding, and whether it would be cost effective, and whether or not you would have the ability to do that, I would say that we would reserve that for a conversation in executive session and not do it today. But that, of course, is something that, I mean, you do have a hammer, and those are FCC regulations. Those aren't ours. Those are what you're supposed to do as a cable operator.
And a middle ground could be a shorter, a shorter franchise agreement, a license of 1 or 2 years that would assume improvement, significant improvement, or not, and that's why we would have a shorter period.
Which is one thing that we initially talked about.
Yes.
Because, we'll hear today, but, if folks around this table are having those problems, if I'm having the problem, if your director of Department of Commerce, Stan Ralston, is having that problem, they're hitting the wrong folks, I mean, it's not just a mom and pop senior out there. They're hitting across the board, and that's not good. They do want to address that. I mean, they do want to talk about that and talk about how they intend to improve that.
Bryce,
Yes.
I've experienced a constant fluctuation in my rates. And there's many times I had to go in and let them know I haven't even been at home that much. And they give me a 1-800 number. I'll call that number, and they'll drop my rates, and then about a month and a half to 2 months later, it skyrockets.
They raise them again?
Yeah.
Well,
Raise them again.
the rates have to be published. They have to give you 30 days before they can raise a rate. I mean, uniformly across the board. And, there is you talk about, and you have it in your franchise, the ability to regulate the basic rate. that first tier of service. But that's only if there's not effective competition. And it is difficult to say with just so many different cable TV opportunities out there that that there's not effective competition, but it's actually a procedure that you have to go through. You go through it with the FCC, and there is the ability. We do have that protected in our agreement.
And I've asked them, how long will this continue? And they told me every year your rates are going to go up. Every year. I mean, who regulates the rates?
Yeah, the answer to that is nobody, except for basic rate. I mean, if you don't like the rate, you can switch to DirecTV. You can take their cable and you can stream Amazon and Hulu. That's sorry, it's federal law.
Right.
I mean, and the whole thing about federal law, what they had, municipalities were being too hard. At least that's what they thought back in the 80s on cable companies. And the cable companies were being too light on what they were willing to pay. Okay? And so they made this compromise. And the compromise was, well, if you do a pretty good job, they probably can't terminate your agreement. Okay? And we're going to give you up to 5% of their gross, which was a significant number, particularly before all the competition.
But they bill you for it.
Huh?
They bill you for it, right?
Yeah, they bill you.
So there's no giving anything.
No. Well, there were days before, there were early days where it was paid for under the earlier franchises. They were paying it from...
But not today.
From their gross, but not today. Okay. Because they fixed, the federal government changed that.
The only
and said that they could add that to the bill. But initially, back in the 80s, that was paid off the gross. So that was an itemized amount that they did pay. And that number, I don't know what that number is. Somebody, $650,000?
Like that a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a significant. I mean, I remember when you were funding $500,000 a year to Pegasus, which was just an incredible amount of money. Yes, sir.
Another question on that point, because it's my understanding that this revenue, their subscriptions are going down. I mean, that's an industry that's eventually is going to go away. And we've got our wagon tied to it at 5%. So every year we're going to be earning less and less money on that. So what are other communities doing? You said there's DirecTV and whatever. Do we own or control any of the space above Enid? I mean, is there any fees that could be placed on DirecTV or any of those things that come in?
No, I mean, currently, right now, the only reason you're getting money is because there are lines in your right-of-way. If they could figure out a way to deliver that product without those lines, without the lines in the right-of-way, then they wouldn't have to pay you anything. And if they just terminated their whole cable TV thing and just said, hey, we're going to be an internet company, because I'm sure if we actually knew how much money they were making, they're probably making a whole lot more money on their internet service. Okay, and if we could tax that, that would be great. Now, the truth is what is the difference between cable and internet? It's still the same operation in your right of way. They're still boring holes in poles. They're still doing everything, in your right of way, whether it's an internet company or whether it is a television company. And what needs to happen is that, at a National League of City meeting, municipalities need to get together and recognize the fact that our revenue is shrinking, and that ought to be extended. The problem is that's not current politics. Current politics, that was Democratic politics. And expansive government, local, even in local government. I mean, that's really the Democratic Party. And the Republicans have have pulled back a lot of that with, you know, protection of companies and, man, I don't want to make this, I'm a Republican, I don't make this a Republican or Democratic thing, but I mean, that's really what it is. Municipalities have, well, let's just say they have significantly less stroke over the term of my career. It just becomes more and more, whether it's an annexation, maybe you've experienced that, they've cut aside rights in about, you know, all different facets of municipal local power. And one of them is cable TV.
So what have you seen from other municipalities? What are they doing? Are they just all taking it?
Ponca City is talking about competition. I mean, they're building, and we talked about that in our initial conversation. Who spoke to Ponca?
I did.
Yeah, but why don't you?
Well, I don't have all the details.
Yeah.
They have invested in a system that's internet, that's what I'm tracking.
Right.
It's not cable TV, it's internet. And they're doing it in a phased approach. I think they told me they'd finished phase one. They did not, I needed to inquire more about, you know, what kind of dollars we're talking about for that system. He did tell me that it was expensive, but I didn't clarify what expensive means. We had talked about it sometime, maybe taking a trip over to Ponca City, and maybe even taking some commissioners if they want to go and visit with them, if we still do, and learn more about that. But I just want to clarify the distinction that Bryce is making about the internet and the cable. We're talking cable tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, I probably need to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn, but what Ponca's doing is internet stuff, wireless connections.
Mm-hmm.
And what you talked about is the future is, and people have already gotten there, is they're not using cable TV, because you can get every cable TV program off a different service,
Sure.
as long as you have high-speed internet. And some people have figured that over time. Some people, like me, are still on Sunlink, so.
It's a buggy whip business. I mean, that's what you already said about it, and we all know that. But just like everything else, there's gonna be old timers that still like to watch 4, 5, and 9.
Of course, you probably don't know this. In 1992, Enid, Rob, were you on the council? 92. We did a telecommunications study as Al Gore was inventing the internet. If you remember, we did the telecommunications study here, and we hired a doctor from Stillwater to do that study. We were doing it in regard to economic development. We were trying to figure out what was our place in this new technology. And he came over, I think it was a $50,000 study. We did the study. The city council at that point, it was so new, you know, it was so new. And we passed, but that's what the state of Oklahoma picked up. That study they picked up and created OneNet, which linked all the libraries in the whole state together. They did it from Enid studies. So when I tell you that you guys have been leaders in telecommunications, not just cable television, but internet, I mean, right there at the cusp of, you know, the forming of the internet, Enid was there doing studies and trying to find its place. That's why I found that just so fascinating, what you're doing now. That's fantastic. But, you know, my answer to your question is, you know, competing. You know, competing. That's what some cities are looking at. I'll tell you, and this is just a footnote, but there was Ponca City had, I think it was a congressman from that district. He came up with a multi-million-dollar grant. The grant was to link 5 cities with fiber. The fiber was built between Ponca City, Newkirk, Stillwater, Perry, and Tonkawa. Okay, I mean a fiber system for millions of dollars, and he wanted to go head to head against cable television. And of course, when he tried to do that, the cable companies called up the congressman and said, "Wait a second, you're taking federal dollars, you're creating a fiber system, and then you're using that to compete against us." Well, immediately, Department of Education declared that they had to sell that system. So I tried to get a group of cities to buy that system, the same cities to buy that system, and the only one willing to go in was Perry, so we put in a $200,000 bid to buy a $4 or $5 million system, and the rural electric company, KMO Electric with KNet, they outbid us by $25,000, and the chancellor went with them, and they now own a really cool fiber system that's between that. And when Perry needed to get better TV, suddenly didn't even know how to get it. I said, why don't you get it from KNet? Because you got the head end down in Stillwater. You don't need to have multiple head ends. You know, you can have that head end, send it right up by fiber and provide it. So that's how they, you know, provided all those stations in Perry. But, you know, that's how it is. You can compete. You can look at the numbers. Of course, don't ask me. I'm the guy that wanted to take over the electric system. So, I mean, that was, you know, that was my pitch. So, right, Rob?
A bit bloody it was.
It was a bit bloody, and I apologize for that. But it would have been a good idea.
Well, if the cold water project comes in under budget, maybe we'll go ahead and put it on the fiber on it.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath.
Hold your breath.
Well, currently they just don't. I mean, who knows what technology will be out there? But right now, I mean, everybody's thinking is that fiber is the future. I mean, it's once it's there, it's uninterrupted. There's so much bandwidth there, and you know, and people are willing to pay a lot of money per month for good service. So,
All right. Anybody else have anything else? We're going to be hearing a lot about this upstairs and a lot from our constituents upstairs. So thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. We stand adjourned. We'll meet you upstairs at 6:30.